Edward Scott, Liberal Democrat MEP for Yorkshire and the Humber. What was your gut reaction, your reaction when you saw this programme, that this programme showed up that this painting seemed to be a fake, but then it could be burned?
Well, first of all, I was watching with sort of half an eye, as it were, and I rather liked the picture. And then it emerged that the guy who bought it in 1992 for £100,000, not being absolutely certain it was a real Chagall, he'd paid his money over in good faith and had actually asked the Chagall Committee in Paris, which is the final authority, is this real? They've now said no, they think it's a fake, and they want to burn it in order to prevent any further forgeries being made. I think that's the wrong approach, and I've asked the European Commission in Brussels to look into whether or not this is legal, that somebody's property is taken by a French committee, it's cost him £100,000, he gives it to them in good faith, and they say, sorry, we're going to burn it now. Is that within European law? And that's why I'm helping my constituent trying to get to his rights.
And I'll ask you in a minute more about what you're planning to do, because there's one of a number of routes that you're looking at. But what was your reaction to this idea of burning a painting? I mean, a cultural object, fake though it is.
Well, if it is fake, and one of the points about this, the people concerned in making the programme make the point that in the past Chagalls have been declared fakes, and afterwards they've been declared actually legitimate Chagalls. He's a really important European artist. He lived for nearly 100 years. He really is a genuinely European artist of really important stature. And there were lots of fakes. Maybe this is not actually completely fake. We don't know. And I think these questions are for the future, but it's actually quite immediate. It's a question of hours, not days or even weeks. Because these people in Paris, they're the granddaughters of Chagall himself. They're the protectors of his name. Fair enough. But I've asked them to stay their hand and not do anything till we resolve this, because I think it would be a gross injustice if one of my constituents buys a picture in good faith and then submits it for an opinion, and the people he submits it to then burn the thing. I think that's an injustice.
An injustice, you call it. So what are you planning to do about it? How are you taking this up? First of all, with Michel Barnier, the European Commissioner for the internal market, as we call it out here in Strasbourg.
Well, indeed, what we used to call the common market. It is supposed to be there to protect buyers and sellers across frontiers. And here we have a buyer and a seller, and the buyer in this case is my constituent. And he's offered this picture for an opinion in Paris. It's across frontiers. Does European law trump this rather strange French law that allows people, if they think something is a fake, to burn it, destroy it in front of a magistrate? So that's the first point. The second thing is we're trying to get public awareness on this. Sure, it was a widely viewed programme, but we've set up a petition, I've written to the Commissioner, and we're trying to make sure that we get the legal situation straight. And leaving aside the legal situation, there's the artistic question. Is a fake something bad, or is it actually a tribute to the artist? And we all know the art world is absolutely awash with fakes and forgeries, some of them very good. And I don't always think it's a bad thing, and I'm prepared to be broad-minded in this case and say it's a much better picture than the one it was based on, which is actually by Chagall.
So let me ask you, let me pick you up then on what the issue that you're raising with the European Commissioner. What kind of European law are we talking about that you're kind of flagging up as might be relevant here?
I think the European Common Market was set up to allow the free trade in goods and services. And what the Commissioner, who I've written to, his job is to make sure that the law is upheld. If there's some strange little quirky law, hardly ever used, I think it's been used once before in France, that actually says, I have the right to burn your property because I don't like it, then that's got to be changed. It's not big Brussels, this is just common sense. We shouldn't allow that sort of thing to happen without due consideration. And so all I'm asking for is a bit of time to allow common sense to prevail.
As it happens, that Commissioner is from France. To what extent do you think that might play into what happens next on this saga?
Well, in that case, he's the perfect person to deal with it. I mean, Michel Barnier is an experienced European politician from the centre-right party, and I think he understands his duty, which is to uphold the single market in Europe. and I'm sure he will do the thing properly. We've been in touch with his office several times today. They're perfectly well aware of the concern in the United Kingdom about this, and I'm sure he'll do his job properly.
Let me ask you then about your petition. Could pressure from the public help? Would you like people to be signing up from Yorkshire to your petition?
Absolutely. I mean, there's been on Twitter and Facebook and so on and so on. I think the public is genuinely concerned, and rightly so. I mean, this is a strange little story about something really important, which is that the French have this odd approach to art and to their own legal system, which is very, dare I use the word dirigiste, very strongly centred. But maybe it's wrong. And I'm trying to prove a point here that the European Union also stands to protect buyers and sellers of property, whether they're forgeries or fakes or whatever. If they're bought in good faith, they should be dealt with in that sense.
Finally then, how do you rate your chances of turning this around on behalf of your constituent?
Well, it's the first day we've started, but as I know time is short, we're putting on the pressure. I think there is a good chance that the Chagall granddaughters will accept Martin Lang, who's the owner of the picture. His proposition is to mark it on the back, this is not attested by the Chagall committee. Fair enough, but it still has a value. It's actually a rather nice picture, in whatever sense you look at it.